Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench. Greetings and welcome to episode 108 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
My name is Barbara. How you doing, partner? I know you've been homebound for a good month. How's it going? You crazy yet?
I am way past crazy at this point. It's tough. I mean, I guess the good news is we've made it through half of April.
Yep.
So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
My state just announced today, Indiana, that we are stay at home until May 1st.
Okay.
And that is also when the ADA is still saying when elective procedures can be done again is after May 1st. So I'm hoping that that's a sign of things getting back up to regular speed at one point.
Yeah. I've got optimistic attitude about our industry starting to roll again, and I'm probably going to look different. We're going to have to operate different, and so are the dentists, but I think there's going to be a need to get back in the dentist chair and get away from their pain. I'm sure there's a lot of people in a lot of pain, and they're going to elect procedures. And I know that we're just going to have to be creative in how we help everybody get back on their feet. The dentist, the lab, the patient, everybody. How do we all pay for it? And I think that's where the money is. That's the magic question.
Well, hopefully everybody paying for it does not mean lower lab bills.
I know.
Let's hope that's not part of the equation.
I know.
But I saw just now that Florida is getting ready to open up some beaches.
I know. I'm so grateful. Yep.
So I guess that's a good thing.
I've actually gone to Dunedin Causeway the last 2 Saturdays to run, and the beaches aren't open, but the paths are. So everybody's out there working out, and it's beautiful, and you can kind of get the ions from the water and get a little bit of balance. But I'm a beach girl, so I'm super hoping that they do open them up. I just like to get out and lay in the sun and, just kind of feel like I'm a little bit normal. That would be nice.
Well, let me ask you. Let's say they open up the beaches and you go. Are you going to stay 6 feet away from everybody?
Hell yeah.
Is that even possible to do on a beach in Florida?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. There's enough room for everybody. And I think we still need to be super smart about that because I think it's working.
Yeah, I think so.
And you're 6 feet away from them, and they cough, 6 feet's really not going to make a difference, but it's working. So I'm in.
Will you wear a mask while on the beach?
And then I'll get a mask sunburn. That would be pretty.
That's what I was hoping to see at the next meeting was a nice big white area around your mouth.
I will probably put a towel over my head though. Like if I'm laying, I'll cover my head. So yeah, I'll try to be as smart as I can.
That's the ostrich way of avoiding an issue is just burying your head.
Yeah, that's the aging way. I always put a towel over my head because I don't like to get sun on my face. So it's just normal for me.
Well, from a chilly 40-degree Indiana, I don't care what you do on the beach.
No, I was going to say, up yours, Lord. So, hey, we're going to have another update today from our good friend Bennett from the NADL. He's got some more information about the COVID-19 and our industry. Elvis and I, we've really been trying to get this out as much as we can on the podcast, and we hope that all of you guys are seeing some benefits for it. So join us for a conversation recorded Friday, April 16th this afternoon.
All right, we'd like to welcome back after a week off Bennett Napier from the NADL to update us on some of the information coming from this COVID-19 and how it affects dental laboratories. How are you today, Bennett?
It's Friday, so Friday's better than Friday's better.
Is it?
Yeah, is it? I think every day's Friday, but no, it is a real Friday. So a little bit of weekend, although it's going to be raining, but it's still a weekend. So
yeah,
we're hanging in there.
Agreed.
Hope y'all are doing well. I know you both have had a fun few weeks, as we all have. So grateful for y'all keeping out the messaging and communication. So thanks again for the opportunity to be with you.
As always, we appreciate everything that you and the NADL has done to keep us informed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what's the latest? What's the news that we need to get out to the industry?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate it. I'm going to maybe talk a little bit about current, and then let's talk about the future, because the future, that's what we all want. So just, a couple of highlights. NADL did a survey to its membership on what steps labs have taken since March 16th, which to some extent was kind of the beginning of activity for laboratories. And so effectively 88% of the respondents to our survey had either furloughed employees, laid off employees, or done a combination of layoffs and furloughs since March 16th. And if we look at the second piece of that, it's clear what the reason is for that is at over nearly 80%, which is staggering. 80% of our survey respondents said their revenue was down by 76% or more. I mean, in many cases, it was in the 90% higher range.
Sure. Yeah.
And so NADL staff's been in communication with American Dental Association staff almost on a daily basis by phone and email. And obviously they're doing data collection just as much as we are, just obviously have a broader pool of people in terms of the size of their membership. But if you look at what's happened on the ADA side, it's effectively ADA had a good webinar on April 16th, which I know a lot of people from the laboratory side logged into that. Mm-hmm. Effectively, if we look at it from their standpoint, have over 80% of dentists effectively were certainly following the orders for just emergency care as it stands with the state and local orders, but almost 20% were actually completely closed. We know there's some outliers that are still doing quite a bit of work that maybe they probably shouldn't be doing, but it seems like a minority of practices are in that boat.
And they send it all tonight.
I don't want to name any. Yeah, not naming names, but but if we look at going forward, because obviously with the White House's phasing back in, if you will, that will occur over the next weeks or months, depending on what state or location somebody's in.
Thank God.
Yeah, everybody's looking at the future. So a couple of things I think are pertinent is the ADA has created an advisory task force on dental practice recovery. And so obviously the objectives that they have in many respects are going to be very closely aligned with what we would want to see, because if they're open, we're open. And so I think important component of that task force is one of the co-chairs, who you both know, this person is Dr. Rudy Liddell, a dentist from Florida. And both of you know, because you worked with him, he just came off of our NBC Board of Trustees, having served some terms with them. So the good news is he understands the laboratory community. And even before he was on that NBC role, he was on the Council on Dental Practice, which that council within ADA is our primary linkage with ADA on, the dental laboratory dentist relationship. So it couldn't be better suited to have somebody like him who understands what our needs are, what our market looks like on that task force. That's a really good news in that standpoint.
Absolutely.
More about kind of from an NADL standpoint, on April 22nd, which is obviously a couple of days probably after this will air, the last few webinars that we have done from an NADL standpoint, which have been widely utilized, which we're glad of that. It means people need that information and want that information. We've been focusing more on technical aspects of infection control, printing of PPE, those kind of things. We're shifting gears, and the NADL executive officers, and we have an outside facilitator, David Knorr, who's kind of a business strategist, are going to be talking about post-COVID. How do you not only help your own business recover, but how do you help your customer base recover? And what's the relationship look like going forward in terms of communication, consumer confidence expectations that the lab and dentist could collaborate on to provide assurance to the patient that the practice is a safe place to come, and the laboratory that they work with has good protocols as well. So I think that's going to be a good webinar for people to kind of think differently and potentially consider some different elements of activities and operations that need to be considered to make those relationships successful in a post-COVID business environment. So excited to share that, and I think that will definitely bring some good value to people, I hope.
Yeah, so Barb, you're on that webinar, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I've actually gone out to several dentists as well as lab technicians that I know, just to kind of get their input and see what they're thinking, and just to collaborate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
All sorts of past podcast guests are on that.
Yes. It's the who's who. Yeah, it's a small industry.
Sorry,
it's a small market. We know that. But on a broader note, I think it's important as we collaborate and share with people. I know each of you have been on different webinars and messaging boards, and just kind of the message. I've been kind of using the term caring and sharing. It's just been great to see this community in lots of different ways try to help each other, just if nothing else, just to be a sympathetic ear, to what different people are going through, and certainly on the economic relief packages that, people have either applied for or gotten, or, didn't get on the first round and are still working on that, just helping people with those processes. It's been great to see that. And so, I would share, just obviously there were a lot of, in the last, 3 or 4 days, there were quite a few laboratories that got funding through the EIDL SBA program. Some also obviously went through the Paycheck Protection Program. And as we all know from the news, both of those funds, the funding's been depleted, at least for round one. And so I think there's definitely an expectation, high probability, that Congress will authorize additional funding for at least the Paycheck Protection Program, if not EIDL or something similar to that. So I think I would guide people, if for whatever reason that they didn't get a formal loan approved and cash in hand, if you will, on the first round, is not to throw in the towel. If they needed that money, and they probably still need that money, so I would just encourage people to continue to work with their lenders, have open communication with the lenders on, are there any other documents that they need to supply or modify that would slow down the process for underwriting to get those funds should the next round of funding be approved by Congress. And that's important. I just hope people, that there were a lot of businesses in all sectors that, either got funding or didn't get funding, and probably, it's a supply and demand issue. I mean, it was, no pun intended, a run on the bank. So there's a lot of businesses that didn't get that initial round of funding, but that's why they're probably going to have the second round, just because a lot of people applied in a very short amount of time. There were definitely hiccups on SBA and the lender side, just given the volume. I think hopefully people will, encouraged to apply for the next round should it come forward.
Yeah, it's important that people keep trying.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say that they did get their loans and stimulus money, and
right.
Then I've heard a lot of people say they're out of money, but they're going to do round two.
Yeah.
So don't give up, keep going. It'll be there.
An additional element of kind of the future as, laboratories hopefully, bring back on their workforce, either from layoffs or even those that had furloughs, but bringing people back into the fold. I hope people will reach out to us at NADL, especially members for sure have this benefit. We'll work with non-members to help them as well through one of our HR consultants, C Management. They effectively have a rehire package, meaning from an employer standpoint, there's definitely documentation that you need to put in writing as people are being rehired, if you will, or brought back into the lab from being out of the lab for a few weeks. And we'll help owners and managers with that documentation of what that needs to look like, what it needs to entail in terms of wording as people start to bring back their team members over the next few weeks. We're happy to help in that regard, and so just encourage people to reach out to us so we can help them with that.
Awesome.
So technically, we have to rehire the technicians?
I mean, obviously, if it was formerly a layoff, that's for sure. Yes. I mean, because certainly a good percentage did actual layoffs as opposed to a furlough. I used the term the other day on a webinar. A furlough is kind of like a separation. A layoff's kind of like divorce. So you kind of like got to start over. And so certainly those that made the decision to do layoffs, which was, almost 25% of the labs said that's what path they chose to do, because it was probably the right path for the business and their employees at that point in time. They made that decision, so they'll have to effectively do what they call a rehire package.
Interesting.
Wow.
We're all hopeful for some optimism. I think it's going to be a long haul, I think. But I think, certainly NADL hopefully been trying to be a conduit of relevant and vetted information to help people. We'll continue to do that, because I think the crisis itself was, and we're still in it, has not been fun. Recovery will still be difficult. And so there'll be some new elements that people need to consider based on the trends that we see in the recovery, and how we work collaboratively with our dental customers and our supplier vendor partners. It's going to take all of us to work together collaboratively to get things back where we want them to go. And I'm hopeful and optimistic that will occur. Again, going to the community spirit of our market is very resilient and innovative and creative. And so all of that gives me hope and optimism that we'll be fine. It'll be bumpy, but I think we'll be fine when we get there.
Yep, I do too. I've got a lot of optimism. I know it's been tough on a lot of people, but I think once the dentists get back to work and once the governors reopen the states, I think you've probably got a lot of people out there that really need to see the dentist. So I really see it coming back pretty quick. I think they'll probably add a Friday and a Saturday to their schedule.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic as well.
But just thank you both for what you're doing and keeping out the messaging. And I know you've been a good lifeline for people. And even though a lot of people used to listen to you driving into work, they might probably doing that from their home office or their couch, but you're keeping people connected. So that's a great thing.
So thank you, Bennett. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you sharing all of the information with us, and hopefully we can get this out to as many people as we can.
Great. Thank you, Barb and Elvis. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Well, thanks again, Bennett, for updating us, as always, with all the information that you've gathered. Remember to check out this episode's show notes for any of the links he mentions, and to always follow the NADL on Facebook and their website, nadl.org. They've done a great job keeping us informed. Barb, do you remember when the industry came together in Chicago for LMT LabDay?
Yes.
Back in February?
Back when we were a little more normal? Yep.
Yeah? How different do you think everybody would have been if we all knew that that would have been the last time for a while that we'd be able to get together and have a conference?
I don't know, because that conference was so amazing. I think we were all so pumped anyway.
You don't think we would have treated it any different?
I don't know. We might have been wearing masks.
Well, Barb and I had the opportunity to set up our recording gear at the Argon booth right there in the exhibit hall. While there, we were able to record a lot of different people in our industry. And one of the greatest parts of recording live is getting to talk to people who we might not usually talk to or set up to talk to remotely. So there I was, setting it up the first day and looking for our first recording. I met a lady by the name of Randi James who just was stopping by the Argon booth to see her rep. I convinced her to come back with her husband Scott to talk about their story and to see what they're doing in their lab. Now, we love a good lab that has a long family story. And these two have it, and they're doing a great job in Minnesota. They are a wonderful couple. Then we were joined by Fernando Catania. He is the Dental Regional Sales Manager for DGS Shape. Those, of course, are the makers of the Roland Mills. Fernando talks about the history of the Roland and what they're working on now and how they listen to the needs of the labs. So join us live from the Argon booth at LMT LabDay Chicago 2020 with Scott and Randi James and Fernando Catania. Barb, I got a call from a doctor who's looking for a new lab.
What? That's awesome. Did they start to send you work yet?
Yeah, but unfortunately her impressions are terrible. Missed margins, distortions all over. I don't know what to do.
Well, she's probably looking for a new lab because the last lab stopped taking her impressions. You know, bad dentists, they go from lab to lab to lab.
Yeah, that's probably what she's doing. But you know, I just got this account. I don't want to lose it. When I talked to her, I asked what impression material she was using, and it was some brand I've never heard of.
Yeah, there's a lot of crappy impressions out there. I don't understand why offices use cheaper materials to save money up front, but in the end, it ends up costing them twice as much, and with all the remakes for us and for them that they end up doing. And, you know, we got to eat the remake costs.
Yeah, that's so true. I really wish I could find an impression company I could rely on for help, and the doctors can get the help they need for us to get the records we need.
So there you have it. Check out Kettenbach. This German-manufactured impression material is taking the U.S. by storm. Not only do they use top-notch patented technology, but they have a dedicated customer service team that will work with your accounts, which is amazing.
Interesting. So do I just call the doctor and tell her to switch? You know, what if she doesn't want to?
Well, you know how doctors are. Most of them are pretty open and say, hey, if I can do better, please let me know. So if I was you, I would tell her to call Kettenbach Direct, give her the number of 877-532-2123. They've actually got a $99 starter kit. They will put her in touch with a local rep, and they also have a lot of materials that labs use every day, like the Panacell Lab Putty Hard and Lab Putty Soft. They've got soft reline, they've got bite registration material, and when a lab orders, guys listen up, 25% off your first order. All you have to do is mention the code DentalLabPodcast25. Plus, they sell direct, so there are even more savings. patients.
Whoa, wait a minute. I've heard about that lab putty. We use it here in our lab. I didn't even realize it was made by Kettenbach. That is amazing lab putty that our technicians love. I'm going to check out kettenbach-dental.us right now and then call my new doctor.
So, just hearing Elvis say it's an amazing lab putty, there you go. There's a super awesome recommendation. So, call him.
Thanks for your support of the podcast, Kettenbach.
Thank you.
Voices from the bench. The interview. So here we are, LMT Lab Day, day one. Well, it's actually day two, but day one in the exhibit hall at the Argon booth. And I am joined by Scott James and Randi James from Renstrom Dental Studios in Minnesota.
Yep. We're just north of St. Paul in Vadnais Heights.
Vadnais Heights, never heard of it.
Yes.
So where do you get the name of your lab, Renstorm?
It's my family's name.
Okay.
So started by my grandfather in 1966.
66,
yep.
Wow.
And then my dad and my uncle were in there. They've been in there since they were like 15, 16 working.
Yeah.
Worked through the 80s, 90s, and then I started in 2003. And then my husband Scott started
2017.
Yeah.
Nice. So when your grandfather opened it, what was it like? Strictly like in the garage type thing, or did he have a whole lab, or?
It started out, he was actually working for a dentist, and I believe I was kind of started, what I've heard is like a closet in the dentist's office.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of expanded.
Where'd your grandfather learn the trade?
In the Navy.
Okay, sure.
So
that's a great program.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met a technician come out of there that wasn't phenomenal.
Yep.
Did your father and uncle learn it from your grandfather, or?
Yes.
Yeah, so they learned, and at that point it was its own lab.
Yep.
Yeah, I think seeing some of the early pictures on the wall at the lab, they first came in, like you said, when they were 15, and there was like 20, 30 other people in that photo. So it was a pretty big lab.
Oh, sure,
early on.
yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, he really grew that big.
Yes, he did.
Nice. And then what did your father and uncle do? Were they just technicians? And
Yes, my uncle was kind of on the Crown and Bridge. He loved models. He was doing more casting end of things, and my father was a ceramist.
Okay.
And
was it all fixed, or was it?
Yep, it was all fixed, and then we started removables in 2013. And then we just kind of expanded into orthodontics.
Last April, we brought 3 new techs on, actually a 4th tech now for ortho in our lab.
No kidding.
So we're doing full-blown ortho, removables, everything.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So how many technicians do you guys have now?
I believe technician-wise we're at around 17, 18.
17 to 18.
Okay.
And about 30 people
size.
overall.
33, 35 when you include office and drivers and everything else.
Got to include the drivers.
Yep,
They're the most important people
in
the whole
They
lab.
really are. Well, they're the face.
They are the unsung heroes of our industry.
They're in all of our offices. They all love them, so they're a very important part of our business.
Yeah, I try to get my drivers. It's like, you should set up a booth. I mean, this is good. So what did you do when you came into the lab?
I started in the office, and I kind of came in not really knowing what I was going to be doing.
But you grew up there.
Yes.
So did you play in there when you were a kid? And
I really didn't.
No,
most people do. Like, you always hear about how they were doing model work when they were kids and stuff. We really didn't. I have a sister. She's not in the industry, but we knew about the lab just because we always heard about the lab, and we'd stop in there, but we never got our hands on anything in there. And then I went off to school for business, and right when I graduated, the office manager was on maternity leave, decided she wasn't going to return.
Yeah.
So they kind of asked me to come in and kind of fill some gaps, and I didn't have anyone to kind of show me what she was doing since she wasn't there. So I
you
just
had to
kind
do it
of
all on your own.
Started figuring things out, and And
you've been there ever since. You're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. The intention when I came in there I wasn't sure if that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, but the industry really grew on me. The people grew on me. Our offices.
Do that. Yeah. So when did you guys meet? Because you didn't come from the industry, right?
No, we actually met through a mutual friend at college. So we were friends for about 3 years. So I knew about the lab for a while, and then dated.
Did you know what it was?
Not really. To be honest, I had no idea that dental laboratories even existed.
Most people don't.
I just assumed
when she mentioned lab, did you think beakers and white
kind
coats?
Of, yeah. And so when I found out that it wasn't doctors actually being the ones who made the crowns and everything.
Yeah.
It really blew my mind. I just assumed they took my impression. Somebody back there did something, and then,
I thought the exact same thing.
All the magic happened or whatever.
I had no idea.
So then I moved up to be by her in 2009, and then I am wide format digital print graphic designer was what my
graphic design, like banners and
yep,
things?
exactly.
Yeah, okay,
yep. So that was what my background was in. And then when her dad was getting closer to, hey, I'm looking at retiring, they brought me in October of 2017 saying, you know what, let's get you in the door for a couple of years before I go out the door. And he's actually retiring in May of this year. So now I've been there for about 2.5 years, getting my feet in the door, learning all the technology. And, once I could design in a three-dimensional space versus like Illustrator or Photoshop.
It's all flat.
My mind was just blown. And
really? That's interesting.
Then you bring in programs like, co-diagnostics and being able to do all the implant treatment planning and everything. It's just out of this world.
So at that point, your father has already established the digital part of the lab? I mean, do you have the 3Shape and do you have all that?
He was definitely the initiator and kind of bringing in the technology. Saw where the industry was going. He was definitely the promoter of getting mills, printers, everything in there and kind of leading that.
And from the stories I've heard, he brought it in pretty early, like 06, 07, 08, to the point of where it was unfortunately a little bleeding with getting a very large 3D printer
way before the
times when he thought people were going to start scanning sooner and sooner. And even to this day, if you sit down with him and have a cup of coffee, that's the first thing he'll bring up is he cannot believe every doctor's office doesn't have an intraoral scanner.
It's pretty amazing how few do.
And he's been saying it for over a decade. So it's kind of interesting. Yes.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So how was it? Who taught you the design? Was it?
So we have a great design team, but Josh, who sat next to me in the design room, basically showed me everything. And then, so I learned everything in 3Shape.
Yeah.
And then I became very good friends through one of our accounts who's a doctor outside the Madison area. And he's like, you know what? I love hunting, fishing, drinking beer with you, Scotty. I'm going to take you around the country. So I did like 140 hours of CE my first year, going and learning everything about occlusion, everything about comprehensive case planning, implants, everything like that. So the one thing I don't like is not knowing things. So I was like, well, I have to just dive all in.
Did you go through like Pankey or Dawson or any of that?
So I went through the
Clinical Mastery Series?
Clinical Mastery Series with John Nosty's group and those guys. So that was fantastic for me. It was really just nuts and bolts, bread and butter. Learned really good cus-fasa relationship. And then obviously every single doctor who sends to us all has their own different things. So you continually learn what everybody feels like is the best occlusal preferences and stuff. So, and then we host a Spear study group at our lab.
Nice.
So I'm part of
two down in Madison area.
Two down in the Madison area. So I drive 5 hours each way, sometimes twice a month.
For a Spear?
Spear's at our lab, but for two different groups that are in the Madison area. And then we also host an AGD study group at the lab as well. So
wow, you guys are killing it.
We're trying.
That's insane. Yeah. What's the competition like in the area? Is there a lot of labs in your area? Or
there's a lot of labs.
Yeah.
There definitely were a lot of labs similar to us. Some have kind of consolidated into the larger corporate groups and stuff, which brings a whole nother level of competition and everything. But we've been trying very hard to hold our own. And
do you find that when labs nearby get part of a corporation that it's actually good for your business? Because honestly, that happened to us, and it was one of the best things that's ever happened.
I feel like we're kind of on the middle point right now. Is there still enough labs like us around that they all haven't been like completely consolidated yet? But I'd say we're definitely getting more offices right now that are coming from, we were getting the $99 crown, and we can't do that anymore. This is ridiculous. We don't want this stuff anymore. And so that's where most of our newer accounts are coming from.
That's great.
Besides, obviously the doctor referrals. So that's been great.
You guys do a lot of advertising?
We try to.
I mean, you make banners for crying out loud. Can't you just whip it out and flyers all day long? Yeah.
No, we do. So we have we put out a newsletter once a quarter.
Do you?
We send out to over 800 offices that we send out
What's in the newsletter? Informational, technical?
We typically both. So we typically like to see if we can have a doctor write something up for us, because it's going out to other clinicians.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily trying to be like, hey, look at us as a lab. It's trying to get good information and education out to doctors so then they realize, hey, this is an information hub that I can,
Who puts it together?
Randy does.
I'm looking at you. You look like that.
Well, I put the information together. So I don't know if we started it last year, the year before. We started a journal on our website, and that's all doctor articles that they kind of put out on our behalf. So we take articles from there, and then we usually try to have some kind of CE courses going. We work with other groups in the area as well. So we usually have some kind of CE class to promote in there. This last newsletter talked about, we do interns, like internships.
From local schools?
Exactly.
Do you guys have a dental technology school near you?
No, we kind of work with a local community school who has a assisting program.
Assisting and hygienic, Yep.
So we'll have assistants in that program come in, and then University of Minnesota.
The dental students actually will come in for like a 2-week internship too.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So they'll come in as they're trying to apply into dental school to have something to put on their resume.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. What's the name of your newsletter? Do you have a clever name for it?
I don't think so.
Radiant
Restorations, I believe.
Radiant Restorations.
That's nice. I like it.
And then it's a French from
Yes.
You got to have something clever.
Yeah.
Our journal name isn't very clever. It's just called Journal. But the main contributor to that is that Madison guy I was talking about, Dr. Ryan Yakowitz.
Yeah.
He's actually out of Belleville, and he's just been fantastic for me. So.
Yeah. Nice. So what's new for you guys? Why are you here in Chicago?
I am a 3Shape lover, and I follow all those guys on the 3Shape Facebook
page. Yeah, those guys are phenomenal.
They are. So I've become kind of internet friends with the Mark Dixons of the group and stuff like that. And so seeing all them, seeing what new things they have to put up is great. But we're always interested in new technology, seeing what else is out there. We have 2 Form 2s right now. Do we look at buying another type of a printer that we can bring a few more things in-house, those type of things? But other than that, it's just good to see the people that we do business with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Like Emily from Oregon here. It's nice to see these people and just keep putting a face to the name.
Absolutely.
And stuff, so.
Yeah,
it's
getting
important.
to meet new people every year, and then you see them every year you come back.
Yeah.
So.
Do you guys come here every year?
This is
it's
our
not that far, is
it? Third consecutive year, I want to say, that I've been here.
I should have been going longer, but this is my 3rd year.
Really?
So.
Do you guys drive?
We fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wasn't sure how far away it is.
It's like a 6.5 to 7 hour drive, or
it's doable,
an hour
but that
and 20
makes
minute
the weekend
flight.
really long.
Right. And if we do it ahead of time, the flight prices are very reasonable.
Sure.
So. But the crazy part is, we were talking about yesterday, from all the courses and everything we're going to and coming here, I feel like we're starting to see the same people all over, and the world is becoming much, much smaller. And
that's a good point.
Randy was at a breakfast yesterday.
Women in dentistry.
Did you go to that?
I did.
Yeah, they
won't
let me in. Every year I try, and I'm like, what the heck?
You can set up the voices from the bench back there.
Yeah. My co-host is female. It's good enough, right?
It should be. It should be.
Yeah.
I actually asked her because I was pretty hungry. I said, do you think that they would let me in because I'm a big advocate? Or
I love women in dental technology.
Right.
No, we had the ITD ladies on a couple years ago. They put it on, and I've heard only great things about it. Who spoke there this?
There was quite a few people who presented.
Really?
I was a little late for it.
Yeah, it's morning. I get it.
Yeah, but it was a really great event,
Yeah.
and everyone got really motivated to try to put on their own chapters of it. So it's not just once in Chicago, how they can kind of expand. So then when we meet in Chicago, there can be even more people attending.
You can do your own in your area?
We talked about it last night because we have our state meeting coming up in April, and I was like, if we could get 20 to 30 just to start it, have
just
breakfast
meet for coffee
before the
or
meeting.
something, just to get it kicked off the ground.
Yeah, we do a lot of spears, and I got contacted by a female prosthodontist who wants to start an all-female spear group.
Oh, okay.
Who I could recommend from our lab.
Sure.
I offered to show up in drag, but it
didn't go.
So do you go to the Spear Summit then?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. We don't actually host the Spear Study Club, but we participate. Between me and the owner, we go to 9 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we go here and up there and all over. We just kind of go around, and He goes to the summits. I've never been. One of these days I'd love to go.
You should bring it there because I think there'd be a lot of people there to talk to, and it's really good CE out there too. So
yeah, I love their whole organization. It's really changed how we think.
Yep.
Full mouth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what's new? What's next?
So right now, the next thing we're going to be looking at is, everybody's hot button thing is clear aligners, and so we were very impressed with Full Contour / Argon's presentation yesterday.
Yep.
It gives us an opportunity of a new revenue stream without having to
do anything.
Without having to bring in that dreaded FDA 510K that everybody is horrified about.
Zero interest.
Yes. So, but the best part is that for me, we do a lot of digital diagnostic wax ups. So this would give me an opportunity to say, okay, here's where your patient starts now. And if they're giving me a case that I think is a little bit difficult or I don't trust that the restorations are going to last long term, this gives me an opportunity of another tool in my belt to say, hey, after 16 weeks of clear aligners, this is where we could go, and now let's look at doing those 10 veneers. So, if they agree to the $99 charge or whatever to bring that into the treatment planning, now it helps for everything because now we can be like, oh, you want to do an implant in 19? Well, if we make space for it with these aligners now, in 6 months we can look at doing that implant and doing 10 new veneers.
So you guys already do ortho, though.
We do. We just don't do the clear aligners.
You don't do clear aligners yet. Yeah.
When we brought those guys in, we brought in a laser welder. We brought in everything. So we do everything in-house with that. It's those guys, we almost say they make like little torture devices I feel so bad when they tell me, like every time we make something new, I ask them to bring it to me and explain what they're doing and everything. And they're like, yep, it's going to go on here and the spring is going to bounce out. And I'm like, how old is the patient? They're like 9. I'm like, oh,
you see
man.
Those pallet extenders?
Oh,
yes.
You're
like, God, you got to stick a key in there and turn it, and it does not look good.
No, it doesn't.
What about digital dentures? Is that on the horizon, or?
It's something that we constantly are kicking around the idea for.
Yeah.
We have an awesome set of guys who are in our denture department, and as we look at bringing ways to do digital dentures, we still want to be able to incorporate those guys because you can't, ignore the experience and everything.
Are they willing to do it on a computer?
100%.
Really?
Even if they're not the ones who are designing it, even if they're the ones who are sitting next to the designers, okaying it, then they get to do the finishing of it, and they can do all their things that their experiences have brought them on to be able to do. I think that's where it's going to be a winner. It's just right now, every ecosystem that you learn about all has its own little touch points and differences and everything, and I don't think there is anything that's like straightforward. This is the easiest, the best way to do it.
No,
you need to have all these little extra touch points, extra softwares. So as much as people want to say that it's 100% ready, I think it is for labs that have never done dentures before. But people who have experienced denture techs at their business, I think that it's not necessarily fully
No,
ready.
It's still easier.
Correct.
And cheaper, not cheaper, less expensive.
Right.
To do it by hand at this point.
Right.
Yeah. What do you got? You guys do Ivo base or?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good system.
Yep.
Yeah, it puts out a nice result.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sitting down.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being my first for Lab Day. Sorry about the buzz.
No, it's cool.
I got to figure out where it's coming from.
It was good for a while, and now I'll walk around like this for the rest of the day.
You'll hear it all day. All day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I want to say S words.
You can say whatever you want.
No, not those words. Just words because of the S's.
Oh. Succotash. All right, here we are, LMT Lab Day Chicago on Saturday afternoon. We are with Roland guy, Fernando
Catania. People call me Cantina.
I get Cantina. That's where I wanted to go, the whole Star Wars thing.
Cantina, Catalina, Catania.
I love it.
It works.
How are you?
Very well.
You having a good show?
Well, it's Saturday today, right?
Yeah.
Saturday. It's we're done, but we've had a lot of fun. I'm doing great, I think.
Your room you have up there is a nice setup.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you. So, yeah, the suite this year, we kind of scaled it up from years prior.
Yeah.
The idea is that we create this space where people can come and ask us questions. We get a lot of people that have our technology and they just want tips and tricks about their workflows.
Yeah.
So it's really a space for people to, users to interact with each other and then just share experiences. Obviously, we're there to answer questions.
Yep.
So really, it's just a meeting point for people, just like the whole show, but for people so we can assist.
Sure.
So usually companies launch something at this event. Did you guys have anything new that you're promoting?
Yeah, we did. We launched a couple of things that our team from Japan was here. So obviously we're a Japanese-based company. Our American operation has run since 1981. A lot of people don't know.
You guys been making mills since 1981?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Who the hell had a mill in 1981?
Actually, our milling technology from today was made in 1981 to mill our own piano keys.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah.
I bet you our listeners are going, that's crazy.
So
we 3D print those now.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of interesting. Our milling technology does stem from our own internal manufacturing. So many years ago, we used to mill our own piano keys out of precious materials. High-end materials.
Ivory? Isn't that what piano keys are made out of?
Yeah, I think today's not PC to say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Teeth?
No, but like valuable substrates. So
Yeah.
we would make our own keys, and they were milled, and they had to be, just
Perfect.
baby butt smooth. Is that kosher?
Yeah, that's cool. We like talking about butts.
They had to be very smooth, very fine finished. So we used to have the technology internally, and a couple of other things that were going on in the company. We're an innovation company, really. We're a music company. We were a music company, and we still are.
Interesting.
Never knew that.
Yeah, like keyboards.
Yeah.
Rolling keyboards.
Now that you say that, I put the two and two together, but I never.
Yeah, keyboard
I never
synthesizers.
Did. Yeah.
I'm
I recognize that name for music.
Yeah, we actually have a what's the gold record award of the music industry? Come up with it in a second.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, when you make stuff up, you can't really remember it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Grammy?
Yeah. We have a Grammy.
We have a Grammy?
Wow.
Yeah, Roland actually created the digital musical file, the MIDI.
I remember the MIDI. That's all how ringtones used to be.
Well, MIDI, we created the MIDI file. We've done a lot of things that are innovative in the music industry. And that the spirit of innovation is what led us to have a division called Digital Group in the early 80s. The first products we ever commercialized outside of music were milling machines. So our milling technology in dental stems from those early on milling devices.
So you guys have been doing it for a while, it sounds like.
We've been doing it, for over 35 years.
Explain to me what the DG shape is. Is that the umbrella company, or how is it?
I'm glad you asked that. It's actually something that it shows. It's kind of like it wouldn't have made sense if we didn't have this other discussion. So Roland Music, still a company today.
Yeah.
Roland DG, or Digital Group, which is the one that we've been known for. Those two broke away so that we could focus on different businesses because they were not alike at all.
Sure.
We feel that this world, the lab world, the dental world, is separate enough and unique enough to our company that it deserves a focus. So DG Shape has been taking shape for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this is Roland, but DG Shape is our dental company.
Okay.
That's good.
We want to focus, and we want to have focused resources and focused innovation for this market, for you guys.
We don't want to accidentally order a synthesizer when you're actually wanting a dental mill. I don't want to accidentally do that. Yeah.
Only you, partner.
Yeah.
Only you.
It's more about like focus. Really, it's mind share though. So when you have a company that does all these things that are based on innovation, if you get a bunch of guys and girls together to only focus on developing products and listening to a particular customer, sometimes the only way to do that is to form a group that nobody else can touch and steal resources from. So what we do now is we have a development team that only listens and pays attention to this marketplace. We believe we have a kind of like a motto, a mantra in our company that if you observe what your customer does and you listen to them and you observe their human behavior, I know it sounds very philosophical,
but I like it. Yeah.
You will make products that are extensions of what they do with their hands and their creativity.
Interesting.
And believe it or not, we're very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
We're very sensitive to making extensions to what you do and what you intend to do with devices that can complement that.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what did you say you were launching at the show?
So back to...
Did you get into that? I don't think so. We asked, and then I don't think I got an answer.
The beers we're having, guys.
Maybe. Or the fireball.
Squirrel. So at the show, as far the platform for our milling technology remains the same. Our DWX52D, which we find sort of commonplace in every laboratory today, is a tool. It's an extension of what we were just saying, of the hands of the technician or the design that you're doing on your computer or the needs of the case at hand, right? The situation. So we still have the 52D. We have our 52DCI with a disc changer, which is nothing new, but it's still taking on. Like, it's still coming into the laboratory where that +1 puck is still a big differentiator in productivity. Yeah. So we haven't done anything new from our platform itself, but we did introduce on our wet mill, which I'll plug in a little bit of my own philosophy and things that I see going on from observing you guys, is that to me is a new solution for your marketplace, which is we see you guys going away from pressing and more, in that behavior of digital workflows. Our 42W has the same milling outcome and results as our dry mills. And we felt that on grinding, for lack of the generic term EMAX, right? Yeah. Or glass ceramic, or nanocomposites. Our 42W platform, we are now looking to make that more productive. So it would do 3 units in one single run. Now it can do 6. So we came up with an adapter that is more along the lines of the productivity that we see necessary in the lab. So we'll be able to set up 6 units and walk away and have the machine send you an email when it's done milling.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it sends you an email?
Sweet.
Nice.
All of our mills will send you an email when they're finished.
Nice.
You set your mill to run at 5 o'clock. You set up a couple pucks, and you're having dinner. And you and I were talking about having cots at the laboratory.
Sleeping at the lab,
Yeah. It's the only industry I've ever heard of, by the way. I don't come from this world. I started working in dental about 10 years ago. But I found it tremendously interesting. We were talking about this last night with Elvis, that lab technicians are the only people that have cots in their laboratory.
Oh, God, yes.
You don't have we don't have friends that go, hey, I'm going to sleep at the bank tonight.
Yeah. Nope.
Who was it? Someone last
night
said,
you live and you die.
One of the most important things I bought for my lab was the comfortable couch in my office. So he has a good place to sleep.
Yeah, so as far as new things, the adapter for our 42W, and we brought back something that we kind of by mistake had innovated a while back, which was a C-clamp. So now when we see these full arch restorations, you guys want, again, I think you guys want to be able to get that beautiful result and that tight morphology and super beautiful anatomy.
Yep.
We realized by mistake that if we took a 5-axis mill and we flipped up the puck 90 degrees, we can mill it head on. So in our new mills, we accidentally sort of did away with that. So we brought back an accessory that allows people to do that.
Wow.
So it was funny. We didn't think that it was that big of a deal, and then everyone was going, wait a second, where did my 90-degree milling go? And now, because, I don't know if this is my take on it, but you guys can confirm it because you're closer to it, I see that we're moving towards big appliances and bigger restorations.
Yeah.
The all on 6 and 4 and all on 4 or all on X.
Yeah.
So that demands that you guys don't want to finesse those pieces when they come off the mill. You want the mill to do about 98% of the work.
Yep.
Well, that's when you bring back that 90-degree milling and that head-on milling. So
interesting. Never heard that term, head-on milling.
Yeah,
it's good.
I like it.
I think you got to listen to the customer.
Yeah.
You got to be sensitive to what you guys need. And the thing is that you guys lead us to the solutions that we need to provide to the market. It's very easy if we just simply ask the questions or sometimes just watch and observe. I mean, again, my position on walking away from pressing, I see that pressing is kind of the last manual process that has...
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I have to seat and finish veneers and cut down the sprue, and I just, I'm like, why are we still pressing?
Exactly. And also, the funny thing is that in this industry, correct me if I'm wrong, just from a business standpoint, the failure rate, the remake, which was a term that was new to me years ago, the remake rate was quite high in the manual world. Was it not?
Yeah.
Significant? And then when you ask people about the digital workflow and their remake rate, they kind of look at you like, oh, I forgot about that.
It's significantly lower.
Yeah, because it's so precise.
Once you dial it down.
Yeah.
I mean, when you first start doing something, either on a new mill or a new machine,
or even sometimes a new technician.
Takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, they do like 3 or 4, and you're like, no. And then once you dial it, it's golden.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that when you go, and then you look at pressing, and pressing is still that one process in the laboratory that has a high rate of failure or significant rate of failure.
Yep.
And now you look at it differently. Whereas before it was the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Now you look at it like that's a huge pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Plus, having people that can do it is also, it's becoming like a denture technician.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Nope.
Lot of steps.
Yes.
When I learned how you do
Way
that, I
too
was
many.
like, wow, to get a crown?
Yep.
This other one, it's a simple 2 steps.
Yeah. Do you recall, when we talked about in Vegas, we were talking about that technicians are like unicorns, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get people, this is what I've seen in the market and hearing, is that you guys have trouble finding people.
Yeah.
You have trouble.
Big time.
And then the obviously the ramp up or the indoctrination process, that tutor to student sort of dynamic is hard to do with digital tools.
Yep.
It's a lot easier for me to do something manually and then have you replicate it. But it's really difficult for me to show you how to maybe design.
Yeah.
Because, look at the dynamic. If, I was showing Elvis how to design a crown or something, I would literally have to climb over him and grab the mouse from his hand, right? So that tutelage process, it's kind of difficult to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I learned this at a laboratory. There were, one person was teaching another how to design, and they actually were team viewing in from within the same laboratory so that they physically could teach each other in dialogue.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
But isn't that funny? Isn't that kind of
interesting?
Funny.
Yeah. But it actually makes sense.
It was the only way that I could be like, hey, you know what, touch this, or I could observe what you're doing without physically getting in your way.
Yeah.
Or deterring you from actually experiencing what you needed to experience.
Yeah, do it yourself.
Yeah.
That's how you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I think it's a fascinating, it's still, every year it's like a fascinating thing. I look at, I'm looking across here, there's guys at 3Shape. Back in the day, the limited margin took like 60 clicks.
Yeah.
Today it takes 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had
60 clicks. Yep.
You had to click on your mesial and your distal, and now that happens automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, if the modern technician has an appreciation for those improvements.
Well, you've been around. I remember going to meetings. It was all about how many clicks it did to do something.
Yep.
I was like, that was the only way they were able to judge or see how well a technician was how many clicks. Nobody talks about that anymore.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
that's true.
And then you have you kind of go, wow, it's like you forget the pain you went through. And it's almost like
we're on the other side now.
We take it for granted real quick.
Yeah, real quick. We're done.
I think there was a, I don't want to go on a gnarly tangent. I don't know what our audience is like for this podcast, but I think it was Joe Rogan, maybe.
Yeah.
I think, or I don't know if I had that right, or Louis C.K., which maybe it's not a cool guy to mention these days, but I think he made a joke once that he was on his first flight with Wi-Fi, and they're like, hey, you know what, we're gonna get up to 30,000 feet. You guys are gonna have Wi-Fi. And it's like, whoa, you guys they look at each other like, that's amazing, and they get up there and they're like, hey, everybody, open your laptops. You're gonna have Wi-Fi, and then. All of a sudden, they come online like, hey, guys, we apologize, but the Wi-Fi is not quite working. And the passenger next to him says, oh, my God, I can't believe this. And it's like, wait a second, man. When we were down on the ground, you didn't even know this was possible. Now you're, it's like, and now you're complaining that you don't have it. Yep. So, I don't know. It's just funny. I think we forget really quickly.
I was just on a flight where the Wi-Fi wasn't working. The captain had to come on and say, we apologize. There's nothing we can do. We tried restarting it. I'm sorry. They had to really apologize.
Because people are used to it.
Out. Yeah. How am I going to get through this hour and 45-minute flight? And I was just like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. But if you think about it, if you're flying cross-country today, it takes you 5 hours or so. You kind of count on getting some stuff done.
You get business done, emails, you name it, absolutely.
I mean, how often do you get an out-of-office reply from anybody today? No matter where we're at, we're in,
Yeah, we're always plugged in.
Yeah.
That's true.
You don't get it very often.
But I think as far as the tools for our industry, and I guess it's not necessarily important that we remember the pain that we've gone through, but at the same time, we're in a really cool place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a great time to be doing what we're doing.
And then I think it just takes you to what's next? What's going to be possible? We have a printer upstairs that can print a shaded temp. I don't know if you guys have
seen it. Yeah, we were
just
talking about that, printing teeth and shaded.
It's actually in
wow.
our suite, so come on up. It's
so Roland does printers too?
No, we have an alliance with a company out of Italy, DWS, and that's kind of a new thing, going back to your question. If you guys pop up and check it out. So these guys...
Isn't that a shoe store?
DWS, I think they're...
Yes.
Is it?
Wow, you are surprising the hell out of me today. I don't know where you get that.
Shoes or something?
Well, okay. Now these guys can come to the States, man.
Yeah. Just open that door.
Gotta change it.
So, these guys actually have really cutting-edge technology.
Yeah.
And I know that's such a hokey thing to say.
Yeah.
But it is really like the dawn of something very new, which is the ability to print a temp with actual shade, like with realistic shade.
Yeah.
Now, STL files, if you look at the color data that's coming from an intraoral scanner, and you and I were talking about, digital communication last night, the communication that you were given when you're resolving this situation, this case, now it tells you there's a lot of data there. You have color, you have, obviously you have, contacts and preps and whether you can see the margin, etc. But now you can actually design your file will have color data in it. Therefore, in an additive process, not only are you building a volume, but you're also respecting and applying color data, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's for a temp. It's not for a permanent restoration. But now the possibilities they're there, right? I'm always amazed at the confluence of all the things coming together. Materials, technology, software.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
People.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you that maybe it might be a hard question, but as a milling company, do you guys see a worry of printed crowns?
I think that you can't.
I mean, it might be 10 or 20 years off, but...
I don't think it's that far off.
Yeah? I mean...
No.
We were talking about that at CalLab.
I don't think it's
printed crowns.
It's not that far off. And I think that as a company, see, when you're a mill company, if you're a milling company, you should be really concerned. We're not a milling company. We're an innovation company. And I know I'm not trying to
elevate. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a great answer.
Yeah. I'm not trying to elevate who we are. Oh no, we're just smarter than everybody. We're focused on what's going on around us, we believe, and we're doing things that you should never be concerned to lose. Actually, I could tell you it would send us on a tremendous tangent, but our company has been faced with this situation multiple times in our history.
Sure.
Where maybe a bread and butter product was being, maybe just it wasn't being attacked by the world. Just things were changing.
Well, I mean, you don't want to become a blockbuster.
Exactly.
And that's why you partner up with an Italian 3D printer.
Yeah.
Because you guys are already doing what you should be fearing, but you're staying on top of it, and that's important.
Exactly.
Yep. Well done.
Huge. Yeah, if you don't listen to your customer, listen to the marketplace, listen to the customer. Don't force things down a path just because that's the path you're on. Be nimble. Continue doing what you're doing well. Continue to improve. But also be aware that if you don't evolve and innovate, we know what happens.
Yeah. Those milling companies are going to say 3D printing crowns aren't going to happen. Everyone's going to continue milling. It will be the ones that don't exist in 10 years.
The things that today, there are companies that we're all aware of that come out with things that are just absolutely, that were not imaginable just 24 months ago.
Yeah.
Right now we're moving in like 18 to 24 months steps.
Yeah.
And although sometimes we can't even think back of what we were doing in our lives 24 months ago.
I couldn't even tell you 24 hours.
I saw you last night. Yeah.
I can.
Agreed on that.
Everyone, I can. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, that's cool,
We enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks
I had no idea.
Yeah.
You just hear about Roland Mills, and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
piano keys.
Not to do like a plug for Argon, for example, but this is a relationship that we have where it's almost like you learn from your customer because they're an innovator. I think it stems obviously from their people and listening to their customer, which they do very well.
Yeah.
But it's also just an attitude of we got to innovate, we got to create, we got to do the next thing that will help our customer, not the next thing that benefits us.
Yeah.
But they believe that if they listen to their customer, they observe what they need, and also all the forces in the market, they'll do what they need to do for their business, for the betterment of their business. So we admire Argon for that. I think Roland, DG Shape, we're similar in that way.
Awesome.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
So thanks for coming by.
All right.
A big thanks to Randi, Scott James, and Fernando for taking the time out of your busy LMT lab day to sit down and chat with my partner, Elvis. Unfortunately, I wasn't there that day and super missed it, but you did a great job, and thank you very much. Thank you again, Argan, for giving us the space to set up. It was amazing. It's nice to hear from a lab before the COVID-19 hit our country. And it's important to remember that there will be a time when we all get back to where we were and running and growing our labs, going out to dinner, going to the beach, hanging out. It's coming. I really believe it.
I miss seeing people other than my family.
Yeah, I miss going out to dinner. I never realized
I really do too.
Yep.
Somebody serve me my food.
Mm-hmm.
The things we take for granted.
Yep.
You know, actually, after we talked to Fernando, I was ready to buy a rolling mill for summer right after LabDay. I had the purchase agreement all written up. Argan was ready to do it. And then COVID-19 happened, and we put it all on hold. So I'm waiting for the time that we can get back to doing the amount of units we were doing before, so I can go ahead and get that rolling mill. That seems like a pretty nice piece of equipment. You got a couple of them, don't you?
I sure do, and I would agree.
Yeah. Man, we were so close to getting one, but, you know, as Bennett says, when you drop down 90% of work, it's hard to really make those purchases.
I know. I'm with you.
All right, everybody. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you next week.
Have a good week.
Stay safe. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Blah, 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 blah.